All right, so here in Sydney, Australia, and I'm gonna actually take this off and talk to you in a little bit more directly because this thing banging around on my shirt all day. But anyway, so what I'm gonna talk to you guys about today, what I'd like to discuss is actually the concept of this mystical meditation. So this practice of mystical meditation, what is it? Why does it matter? And why am I so convinced that it's one of the best things you could possibly do in terms of learning how to meditate? Well, first we need to understand that all meditation practices will ultimately reach this place of metaphysical sensorial understanding or perception as you progress in that practice. What I am teaching in mystical meditation, in quintessence meditation, in the alchemical awakening class is how to perceive your awareness directly. And what happens when you do that is your awareness will manifest as light. And so this is what I have come to find is the fabric of physical manifested reality is light. And when I say physical manifested reality, we have layers of non-physical more subtle qualities, less dense wavelengths of reality as we move from the physical dimension up to eternity and from eternity back into the finite material form that we call reality or life. And when I say eternity, I'm speaking to the absolute oneness of everything, everywhere, all together, all at once. And in that place of complete unity and oneness, there is no infinite expression. It is an eternal expression of oneness, meaning that everything exists in that space, but there's no one finite form of perception or finite perceiver to create and perceive the infinite eternal expressions. So this is really what people are starting to get at when we're talking about samadhi and meditation is we learn to quiet our mind, we learn to stop the narration that happens inside of our minds, and as a result, our perception of the world changes. And when our perception of the world begins to shift as a result of our awareness becoming more luminous and more expansive, we start to perceive metaphysical, sensorial awareness. We begin to perceive directly the substrate that is manifesting this reality that we call life. So, in this meditation practice, we focus on these different energy centers in the body. The reason why we do that is that these energy centers are spheres of consciousness. And when we place our attention and our awareness on these energy centers, we are beginning to infuse our awareness with a different energy or quality of consciousness itself. And so when we do that, we begin to activate this energetic alchemical process that happens in the body that begins to happen on both a physical and a metaphysical level. So physically speaking, it begins to put us more in touch with the endocrine system and the glands in the body that release different hormones and different chemicals in the body, which create other different chemicals and hormones to be excreted as a result of this physical endocrine-based alchemy that's happening. And simultaneously, the energies in the body are beginning to awaken these different pathways. So we have these things called nadis in the body, and the nadis are like the circulatory system of prana and shakti. And so when we begin to focus on these energy centers, our awareness becomes infused with that energy, and simultaneously the body begins to have a reaction because you can't have one without the other. As within, so without, as above, so below. So anything that's happening physically is also happening spiritually, and spiritually is happening physically. This is why a lot of the medicine traditions from North and South America and all over the world, whenever they're talking about healing something, they're looking at healing the spiritual root of that dis-ease or sickness, because typically speaking, the physical, well, actually, not typically speaking, in reality, the physical manifestation of illness or sickness is just the physical manifestation of something that is rooted deep in our subconscious, in our spirit, as a result of something that we've gone through in life. And so, in this practice, bringing it back to the meditation practice here, when we come back to this practice, we place our attention on these different energy centers, and our awareness becomes infused with that quality of awareness, and our consciousness begins to expand. Well, actually, our awareness is expanding so that we become illumined and more aware of this greater field of consciousness that we have. And it's a really important thing to note that we can't divide consciousness up, because consciousness is indivisible. Consciousness is the one thing. So this is why when I sometimes refer to it as quintessence meditation, we are learning to perceive our essence directly. And as a result of perceiving our essence directly, we become more in touch with the quintessence that we all share, which is consciousness. This is very important, that awareness and consciousness are two totally separate things. They're, we have the Shiva and the Shakti. We have the yin and the yang. It's not really yin and yang, that's more polarity speaking. But in reality, your awareness is more akin to that Shakti quality, and consciousness is more akin to the Shiva quality. So Shiva and Shakti are constantly having this dance of life, the dance of Shiva and Shakti. That is what is creating the world. It's what's creating Maya. It's what's creating life. So the more energy you have, the more your awareness can expand. And the more your awareness can expand, the more luminosity you have, because you are perceiving more light. And light is what is creating this entire reality. Light is what is really what you are. Your essence is a little ball of light. So when we perceive light in our meditations directly, when we actually begin to see the luminous awareness begin to express itself through the physical theater or movie of life, we are actually perceiving the scale or depth or current placement of our awareness in that moment. And so there's different things that will happen. There is colors that will manifest, and each of these colors is related to a certain state of awareness or specific desires that are present in our awareness as a whole. And then ultimately, as we go deeper into the practice, as our mind becomes more silent, we will actually begin to move beyond any perception of physical or subtle physical world directly. And this is where we begin to go into the higher stages of samadhi. But for now, I'm just going to speak about light and the more beginner-friendly meditative states of Laja Samadhi, Mada Samadhi, and Salvakalpa Samadhi, because those are really what most people will experience in their first 1 to 3 years of practice. And then depending on your consistency, your discipline, your energy levels, your personal power, you can very quickly move into Nirvikalpa Samadhi and beyond. Now, that typically requires the help of a teacher, because what spiritual teachers are actually really helpful and good for is holding a specific wavelength of awareness so that you can attune to that like a tuning fork. You're essentially entering a field of resonance. So in their aura, they're holding a state of awareness, and when you sit with them and when you meditate with them, and your auras begin to actually touch or merge, your awareness is beginning to actually upscale to resonate at that frequency that is being held. And this is not special or akin to spiritual teaching at all. This is really how most student-teacher, master-apprentice relationships work. Like when you're a craftsman and you're working with another type of craftsman, and they're with you every single day and they're guiding you on the actual physical movements of that craft or the artistic details of that craft, you're picking up a transmission in the process. And the transmission is just the shared frequency, the intentional shared frequency of an awareness. So when we come to mysticism and we're talking about spiritual evolution as a whole, whether it is in the medicine and the shamanic traditions, or the sorcery traditions, the healer traditions, or the Eastern yogi and Buddhist meditations, the teacher is providing a quality of transmission based on where their awareness is in that place and time. And that is what's known as the whispered teachings or the secret teachings. And this is why this is where the oral traditions really come from, is you have somebody who is excelled or someone who is accomplished or has a degree of knowledge and awareness, and they are transmitting that to somebody else as a result of speaking to them, talking about the teaching verbally. And then as a result of that sound wave carrying that teaching, there is also the telepathic or metaphysical transmission of that teaching as well, which is affecting you in the psyche and the subconscious as well. So we have these types of transmission-based teachings that are transmitted through three forms. We have touch, sight, and sound. And this is how Shakti is also transmitted. This is why some gurus, when they do a Kundalini Shakti pot, they will take their fingers, they'll raise their own Prana Shakti or Kundalini Shakti to a specific point in the body, and then they'll transmit that to the other person, and they'll create a resonance field. No one is actually causing yours to rise. All they are doing is helping you resonate at a similar frequency that is currently existing in their own body and their own awareness. So that is like one way that the Kundalini Shakti pot is transmitted. Another way is through sight. This is, in my opinion, the most direct. It is also comes with the most amount of feedback for both parties. It is the most direct for the student or the receiver to reach a high level of expanded awareness very quickly. And then also for the teacher is literally perceiving their awareness where they are at and may receive telepathic or psychic knowledge or understanding about what's going on in that person, what's blocking them, things like that. It's kind of wild, like how that works, because you have to you learn as a facilitator, as a teacher of that type of teaching. You learn as you go. There's no manual for this. Like there's no like handbook, of how to be a spiritual teacher or anything like that. Like my teacher, for example, he was so psychic that it took him, probably 15, 20 years of fully stabilizing his psychic abilities. And then when he started teaching, it was like he knew exactly what he was perceiving because he had so much skill in that realm of knowledge and that realm of understanding. And so, I started doing this facilitation in 2019, and it's now 2026. So 7 years later, am I just now starting to actually root into and ground and understand the things that are happening in the facilitation process. And then the insight and the psychic insight is becoming much more clear. Before I was like, what is actually happening here? So it's kind of this process that the teacher is going through their own evolution and development at the same time that the student is receiving this expanded state of awareness. And it's a really beautiful style of teaching because it's just coming straight to the essence of spirituality. There's no intellect here. There's no mind. Yes, you can convey teachings in a class based on these different scriptures and texts and things like that. But in reality, when you hold that level of awareness and the light begins to actually perceive, it actually begins to accelerate this spiritual evolution process because it's expanding the awareness directly. And in order for spiritual evolution and growth to happen, the awareness needs to be expanded, and then there needs to be enough energy and power to hold that state of awareness. And then as a result of that expanded awareness, the consciousness begins to reform around that new level of awareness and perception. So these are constantly influencing and helping each other during this process. Like you can't expand your consciousness without the awareness. You can't transform and raise your consciousness or evolve your consciousness, whatever kids are saying these days, without the awareness being expanded and held at a certain degree of energy. This is why it's really important that if you're serious, or if you really want to change your life, really, that's what it is. Like, you don't need to be serious about spirituality or a spiritual path. You just want to have a desire to improve your life and become a better person. So you need to have more energy so that you can sustain these higher states of awareness, because the more aware you become of these awakened states or these mystical states of consciousness, you are perceiving more information, more and more and more than the average human is really normally exposed to. The average human is overloaded with physical, sensorial information, and the mystic is being is has to reduce that physical stimulation, the physical sensorial stimulation, because they're already tuning their awareness to perceiving much more non-physical sensory information. This is why people that say that they're very sensitive, or people who might be very sensitive as a whole, they need to focus on stabilizing their energy centers and their auras, because that sensitivity is a gift. That sensitivity is a normal part of human evolution. And now you're in a world that is just now starting to realize that that is like the next phase of evolution. And so you have to be able to live and work in the world and create your life and do the things that you want to do, create your art, work your job, run a business, whatever it is. But you can't just self-isolate, because that's what a lot of people have done historically, is self-isolate to focus on spirituality and enlightenment. And really that doesn't do much for the human race as a whole. It might help that individual person's liberation, but in all reality here, like, what are we doing if we're not here to add more awareness and consciousness to the human race, to our brothers and sisters in the world, and we're just focusing on ourselves, then what's the point? So at least that's the way that I see it. So back to this practice of quintessence meditation or mystical meditation. What's happening is that the awareness that is being attuned to is increasing prana and shakti in the body, which is activating this alchemical process, and on the physical and the subtle physical level. And then we have the light that begins to manifest visually. There's a plane going overhead here. So this light that begins to manifest visually, it has a cleansing effect on the psyche, on the mind, on the body, because you are perceiving the most subtle form of reality directly. And that is going beyond the mind. You're stopping that your mental structure is actually being dissolved by this light. Your way of seeing the world and seeing yourself, your self-reflection, that is all being dissolved as a result of this mystical light beginning to emerge. So when you stop thought, and when your mind stops creating narratives about perception and the world and how things are working in your own body, everything kind of moves to a reduced place. And in this place of stillness, of increased stillness and reduced activity, there is a rejuvenative quality that happens, because most of your energy as a physical being is being directed into sustaining life within the body and the vehicle, and simultaneously it is being directed into generating your mind, or creating your mind, and increasing your thoughts, right? Or generating your thoughts is probably a better one. So we have most of your energy that's going to the mind and to the body. And what happens is when you begin to still the mind and calm the body, that energy moves into the realm of spirit. And when you move it into the realm of spirit, or the soul, you're now actually going into the most subtle substance that is creating the mind and the body, and creating all of this experience of life. So you're getting to the essence of it, and when you place your awareness on the essence itself, it begins to multiply rapidly. Your energy begins to exponentially grow and quantify, because you are now you're placing your awareness on the essence of your being. And whatever you place your awareness and your attention on, you become. So when we're placing it on the most essential, luminous, sacred part of our own being, we are then amplifying that qualities. And those qualities are the most truest expression of you as the individual. And this is where, when you begin to meditate in light and you begin to allow your mind to stop and just be filled with luminous awareness, it begins to reveal more of who you really are before the world told you who to be, before the narratives of society were placed on you, before the stories of your parents and education were given to you to fulfill or to narrate or to carry forth. And this is a very special thing, because you are now giving yourself the gift of rejuvenation, you're giving yourself the gift of rebirth, and you're giving yourself the gift of being true to yourself, of accepting yourself for who you really are. And I think what a lot of people tend to really struggle with is these ideas of who they are and how they should be. And that unknowingly to them is creating cognitive dissonance, because who they really are is this little ball of light with its own magical superpowers of qualities and attributes, and they grow up in a world where they think they have to be something else. So when you begin to accept yourself and you begin to allow your heart's true desires, and you allow your heart's true yearnings in the world to be lived, expanded, acted on, allowed to flow, you naturally become more in flow with life. You naturally become more in flow with the Dharma that is moving through life, the right action, the right mode or way of living and being for you as the individual. And this is why your essence, you're revealing your essence to yourself through the cleansing of your awareness. And through that luminous awareness, you become more conscious of consciousness itself. And that is the quintessence that is what is that is what is inside all of this. It is the same consciousness in the stone, in the leather, in the trees, in the greenery, in nature, that it is in you. The thing that is different is the essence that is manifesting that finite form of infinite eternal consciousness. So that's all where I'm going to leave it today. I hope this has been something that has been inspiring, something that has been assuring, something that you want to know more about. Because when I came across this when I was 23, 24, it changed my entire world. And when I began meditating in light, my life changed. It became more in flow. It became easier. There was this acceptance of who I am and what's happened in the past and what's going to happen in the future. It creates this liberation that everybody really wants to know, that everybody is looking for. And it starts with self-acceptance and self-love. And the things that are skewing that, are muddling that self-love and acceptance, is just all of these energies and frequencies of awareness that have been picked up through stories and narratives and the experiences that you've grown up in. So when we allow the light of awareness to clean that, we begin to reveal who we really are and what we came to do in this life and what we came to do for the world. So you can sign up to my email list in the description below. You can take a class with me as well, both in person and online. And if you really want to know more, you can shoot me an email, you can DM me, ask me any questions. I'll be doing more Q&A questions as we move forward. So I'll see you soon. Have a beautiful day. This is Taylor signing off from Sydney, Australia. There's a rainbow over there that showed up about 5 minutes into the recording, and it's just gotten brighter since. Later.